Our next guest is one of 4, soon to be 5 men with a statue on the Walk of Champions. During his 7 years at the helm of the Crimson Tide, he led Alabama to 4 seasons where they won at least 10 games, and of course, was the head coach of the 1992 National Championship team. And with that, we say good morning to Coach Gene Stallings. Coach, good morning. Thanks for getting up early with us today.
Well, listen, good morning to you guys. It's not really early.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know.
Because I think Coach rises up pretty early.
Yeah, I tell you.
In the TV business, it's pretty early.
Well, it's a beautiful day.
It is.
Yeah, well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us. First, I want to say congratulations on the honor of being inducted. Of course, you've already been announced that you're going to be inducted next year into the College Football Hall of Fame. I mean, I would think for someone in your profession that's been a college head coach at Texas A&M, at Alabama, an assistant, of course, time in the NFL as well, but this has got to be one of the ultimate honors.
Well, it is, but you've got to understand, you can be a good football player on a bad team and still go into the Hall of Fame. If you are coaching going into the Hall of Fame, it's because you've had good teams.
That's
that
right.
means you've had good players, and I understand why I'm going in, because we had good football players.
Coach, when you talk about the Alabama job, it obviously is a high-pressure job. You're one of few men that could handle that pressure. What does it take? What type of person does it take to be able to fulfill that job?
Well, you've got to be comfortable within yourself. I mean, first of all, you can't compete with anybody. For example, when I came to Alabama, you know, everybody talked about Coach Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't want to compete with Coach Bryant. You know, I told more Coach Bryant stories than anybody.
Right.
I mean, I just was trying to win a few games, so that didn't intimidate me. A lot of coaches can come in this environment and be intimidated. When you just look around at the history of, for example, Texas A&M, we're talking about our 1939 team that won the national championship.
Right.
Well, we won 13 at Alabama, looking for 14. There's a difference.
You know, Coach, I want to ask you, and I know you're not a big comparison guy, but there are some parallels to the situation that you took over and the one that Coach Saban inherited. When you got here, Alabama lost 4 in a row to Auburn, and even though Coach Curry had a nice year, everybody wasn't on the same page. In your third year, well, your second year, I think you won 11. Your third year, you won the national championship. Coach Saban came into a situation kind of similar. People aren't on the same page, and he won a championship in his third year. It's kind of a little bit ironic in that regard.
Well, first of all, in order to win a championship, 2 or 3 things got to happen. First of all, you got to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
When we won it, and I don't know about Alabama, but when we won it, everybody started the first game, started the last game. So that really helped. And you got to win the close games, like the Tennessee game as an example, the Arkansas game this year. Good football teams find a way to win games.
Coach, when we talk about today's games, when you look at Florida on the field, they struggled early in the season with the snaps and trying to score some points. But they seem to have remedied that situation. They got Trey Burton out there. What impresses you? What kind of disappoints you with the Gators?
Well, I was extremely disappointed when I saw him in the first game because the center couldn't get the ball back to the quarterback.
Right.
Somewhere along the line, you got to correct that. You got to put somebody in that can at least snap it give them a chance. Obviously, against Kentucky last week. But, you know, it's a little difference in playing Kentucky and playing Alabama.
Absolutely.
And, but I think their football team's improved. If I had my choice of taking the Alabama football team or Florida's football team, I'd take Alabama's team.
You know, when you coached, I remember you used to say, schemes don't win games, players win games.
That's right. Still said.
That's the truth. Florida, a lot of talk about this heavy package, basically an extra defensive lineman designed to try to slow down the run game. Your thoughts on that, and you think it'll be effective?
Well, if they bunch it up, you know, the thing about Alabama's backs, they've got speed to go wide.
Right.
So you may bunch it up a little inside, but they'll find a way to move the football. This is the first time in a long time I can remember where Alabama can beat you offensively. You know, used to, we talked about defense kick game all the time, and we just stayed in the game offensively. But, you know, they can run the ball. They got outstanding wide receivers. The offensive line protects the quarterback. Quarterback hasn't lost a game since the 8th grade. I mean, defense is getting better and better. The special teams are outstanding. The Alabama's, they're a good football team.
You mentioned Alabama's defense a moment ago. Last week at Arkansas, struggled a little bit in the first half, but that second half, they really seemed like they grew up, kind of matured a little bit. Was that your take?
I guess. I've heard that over and over. I don't really believe it. You know, they were fortunate enough that they didn't panic. I think that's the key, that they, you know, you can be the best football team and still lose the game. Nothing says that that's not going to happen every once in a while, but the fact that they didn't panic and try to win the game on one play and go, they just did what they do best. They move the football on the ground, throw the ball occasionally, relatively short pass. Turnovers are going to be the key in this game.
Right.
The running game's always important, but we just can't afford to turn it over. That's sort of what hurt us in Arkansas. We turned the ball over time too.
Speaking of the running game, when you were here, man, you had some good ones. Saran Stacy, I remember Big Junior Sewell running wild against Auburn in 1990, Derek Lassick, Sherman Williams. I mean, you predicated your success on the run game. Now Alabama has Mark Ingram, of course Trent Richardson too, but the first Heisman Trophy winner at the school. You watch him, he's got the vision, the feet, the cutback ability, the power to run you over, the speed to get deep into the secondary. I mean, this guy's some kind of football player, isn't he?
No, there's no question about it. The reason he was selected best football player in the country last year, and it looks to me like he's better this year. And then that youngster that comes in from behind it looks to me like he's an outstanding player. So, yeah, and they understand that. And I think Coach Saban and his staff have just done a beautiful job in taking what they have and being able to, make them a little bit better. They don't have anything fancy. Another thing I like about Alabama this year is when they make a play, they don't run out in the middle of the field and point me. I mean, it's a team sport, and they play as a team, and I appreciate that.
You talked about Greg McElroy earlier, guy's a winner. When you were here with Jay Barker and some others, you didn't want the quarterback to lose the game. You said that's the first thing the quarterback's got to do is not lose the game. McElroy's as good at that as anybody.
I was trying to tell somebody the other day whose son plays quarterback at a major college, and he was asking me a little time. I said, well, first of all, he hadn't got to win the game by himself.
Right.
He's got to direct traffic, and he's got to control the huddle, and he's got to have a little inspiration. But if you got to win the game with your quarterback every week, you're going to win a few, but you're not going to win championships.
Coach, we want to go ahead and get our guest prognosticator segment. We want to make you that this week.
You're usually pretty good at this. Yeah. I've listened to you through the years. You're usually pretty good at your picks.
Well, if you're going to pick some bad pickers, you pick ex-coaches. We think we know everything. Chances are we don't know much. I serve on the Legends poll where we rank the top 25 teams, and we can't even agree amongst ourselves who some of the top football teams are. But I'll give a whack at your picks.
All right, well, let's get started. Kentucky at Ole Miss, 11:21 this morning, the SEC Network game in Oxford.
I've got to pick Kentucky. Really? Ole Miss has had a hard time struggling, and I'd pick Kentucky.
Next up, Tennessee's at LSU this afternoon. They get a break. It's a day game at least for the Vols, but they've really struggled. LSU defensively looks salty. Quarterback's been an issue for them. How do you see that one?
LSU, obviously, the best football team, and I think that even though I don't think LSU plays to their potential week after week, I think they will win this football game.
We're going to step out of conference for just a minute, talk about the big national matchup today. Number 9 Stanford.
In addition to Alabama and Florida.
In addition to Alabama and Florida. Number 9 Stanford at number 4 Oregon today. Have you got to watch those guys much?
Yeah, that's a good football team. I think Oregon will win it. I rank them pretty high week after week, even though Stanford, they're playing pretty well.
Jim Harbaugh's brought a different mentality to that fact.
Sure
they run the football out there. Auburn. That quarterback, Cameron Newton, is a difference maker. I mean, he just follows forward for 4 or 5 yards. They've got Louisiana at Monroe at home. It should be on one side of the game.
They may lose the game, but they shouldn't. Auburn is by far the best football team. He reminds me of the quarterback of Texas A&M. Both of them about 6'5", 250, 255, that they can tuck it down and run. When I watched Auburn play Mississippi State a few weeks ago, I was really impressed with that quarterback, and he's just getting better and better.
The game that everybody around here is going to be talking about today, the big national showdown, number 7 Florida at number 1 Alabama. The tied favorite in this game, different from the last couple of years.
Alabama's the best football team. They may lose it. That can always happen, especially when you have streaks going and there's pressure to play. But they're not going to be out-coached. Alabama's not. Turnovers is going to be the key in this particular game. If we can run the football and don't turn it over, then we're going to win the game 14, 17 points.
Real quick follow-up on that, Coach, because you coached in so many big games, and I know your approach was that they're all big because you lose one you shouldn't, and you'll find out how big it is. But when you had a game like this, top 10 matchup, Did you say anything different to the team in terms of preparation?
No, you know, that's just like media, and everybody talks about national championship. Players not thinking about that. All they're trying to do, coaches not thinking about that. They're just trying to win the next game.
Right.
Stakes are a little higher. You know, when you play a team like Florida, stakes are a little higher. It doesn't count anymore beating Florida than it does with Mississippi State. Stakes, and the players understand that.
Well, it worked well for you. 70 wins in 7 years as head coach of the Crimson Tide. Going into the College Football Hall of Fame, going to be honored at halftime of the game tonight. Coach, we appreciate your time so much.
Thank you, and thank y'all for what you're doing in promoting sports.
Coach, appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Coming up in the second half hour of Crimson Tide Kickoff, we've got a lot going on. We'll get the Florida perspective from Gainesville Sun columnist Pat Dooley. How does the veteran reporter think Trey Burton will change the dynamic of the Gator offense?
Also, still to come on the program, 2 Alabama players paid a special visit to a man who spent his life following the Crimson Tide. You don't want to miss this heartwarming story. It's coming up in the second half hour of Crimson Tide Kickoff on WVUA TV.
Our thanks to Coach Gene Stallings for stopping by our set this morning. What a thrill that was. And don't go anywhere because we're just getting started here on Crimson Tide Kickoff.
Yeah, you know, it's game day here in Tuscaloosa. A little bit windy this morning, but we're dealing with it. Alabama and Florida square off at 7 o'clock tonight under the lights at Bryant-Denny Stadium. A few fans out at this hour, but all in all, John, and I may be getting ahead of myself here just a little bit.
Well, I'll tell everybody what we've got coming up in the second half hour. We're going to look at the other SEC games happening today. We'll also talk live with Crimson Confidential's Eric Stinnett about tonight's Top 10 Showdown, and we'll also get the view from the other sideline, chat live with Pat Dooley of the Gainesville Sun. All that and a whole lot more coming up. But first, this is Crimson Tide Kickoff on WVUA TV. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Stick around.